Hello, my gorgeous wild friends. Welcome back to another episode of She's Wild and Freed. I am so excited about this conversation today. Today, I am interviewing Karen Cerezo. She is a nationally board certified health coach, personal trainer, nutritionist, and wellness advocate, with a mission to empower midlife women to live their healthiest, happiest lives. Specializing in peri all the way to post-menopause, Karen brings over 10 years of experience guiding women through the new season through movement, nutrition, mindset, and knowledge. Her expertise, combined with her own personal journey, has shaped her relatable, supportive approach to thriving in midlife. As the author of Navigating Menopause, Karen provides women with practical tools and strategies to thrive in every aspect of their lives, from managing stress and boosting energy to achieving hormone harmony, with over 20 trackers helping women monitor their health and receive the best medical treatment for their unique menopause journey. Her engaging and informative style has made her a trusted voice in the wellness community. I can attest to this. When we hit record, it felt like I was just talking to an old friend. We hit it off immediately. Karen has so much knowledge and experience around the subjects of peri and post-menopause, which we talk about that as well. I didn't even realize or think about a post-menopausal phase, but we talk about that in this conversation. And I think you're going to learn a lot, or just feel seen as you're going through this process. So if you are in perimenopause, or maybe you're thinking, am I in perimenopause? Things are a little different or changing. Or if you're in your postmenopause phase, you're going to learn some things from this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I will see you at the end with the takeaways. And here we go. Hey y'all, my name's Jen. I'm a health and life coach on a mission to empower women, and this season I call the messy middle. We believe it's never too late to dream your wildest dreams and to build lives freed from the shoulds and have-tos. Here, we talk to ourselves like we do our girlfriends and our sisters and daughters. I will share stories and resources with lots of encouragement and a little bit of tough love to drive you toward action. In this podcast, we talk about everything: career, relationships, motherhood, and health. Welcome, so grab your Karen, and let's go. She's Wild and Free podcast. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get into the topic.
Yes, me too. I think what we're going to talk about today is just so aligned with the listeners, those listening right now, based on what you do. So I would love to hear your story. You can start all the way from childhood, or if you want to just start with your professional life, we'd love to learn more about you.
Perfect. I will not take you all the way back, but I was a middle school teacher for about 17 years. And during that time, obviously, teaching is a challenging profession, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I really started to work on my health and had a fantastic journey, a fantastic transition or transformation, and really just got into the health and fitness component. And so what I decided to do was kind of take a leap of faith and leave the teaching profession and go out become a personal trainer. And so I did that. I was working with a company that I loved, and that kind of spiraled into getting certified in nutrition. I got certified as a senior fitness instructor. I got certified as a health and wellness coach. And my goal was to really, kind of approach the client with that holistic view. How can we help you with, not just your fitness, but what are you doing in the kitchen? How is your sleep? How is your stress? All of those things. And I loved all of it until I started to go through my own menopause transition. And so I'm about 46. So at 45, I'm living my best life. I'm loving everything. About 46, everything just kind of changed. And I'm struggling with my workouts. I'm struggling with my running. I was training for a race. Joint pain. I was struggling with my eyesight. There was just so many issues that was going on. My sleep had changed. I was becoming food intolerant to certain foods. And so trying to figure out, well, what was going on with me. And after having a nice conversation with my mother, I realized I was in perimenopause. And it was something that we really hadn't talked about. So this was something new, and I had no idea what that word meant. I didn't realize that there was a whole stage before you actually hit menopause. I just assumed I'd have some hot flashes and it would be over.
Yes.
That wasn't the case. So then that got me thinking, I am trying to live this healthy lifestyle, and I've got a lot of tools and resources at my fingertips, and I've got a lot of knowledge. I've got a lot of training. And if I'm struggling, I know the women that I'm coming in contact with are also struggling, and nobody's talking about it. We just chalk it up to you're just aging, or, you're not doing it right, or you're not doing enough. And so that kind of made me realize that there was a space that needed to be filled. We needed to have this dialogue. We needed to open up these conversations. We needed to address what happens, 45 and beyond. And obviously earlier than that, but basically midlife. For me, it was, all of a sudden 45 and 46, I hit a wall. And that kind of got me into just diving into anything and everything related to menopause, workshops and webinars and books and trainings. And so that was about 6 years ago. And it's been a fun, amazing ride. It's so nice to see that it's now a topic that people, actually talk about out loud. I see it so much more in commercials and, on my Instagram feed. And so I'm loving all of that. But really, it was just, I was struggling. And I realized I can't be the only one out here doing this that's struggling. And how can we, make this so that we can join forces and try to get some answers?
Yes. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for sharing. I think many listening to this right now, and myself included, will totally resonate with that. And I think, a couple things you said. One is, our moms, grandmas did not talk about this period of perimenopause. It really was just like, oh yeah, you get to a point where your period stops and then you're done.
Right. And it was like so easy, like no big deal.
Yeah. And, I definitely saw my mom have some symptoms, physical symptoms, but you've mentioned it too, like the sleep and, really some of us, myself included, feeling like I'm going crazy, like something is wrong. I can't process things, the anxiety. So I love what you're doing. I love that you said it yourself. You had the tools. You're a personal trainer, nutritionist, wellness coach, and yet now you're struggling with these things. There's got to be more. So I love that you're filling that gap. I like that you said that because there is and has been a gap for women. And you're right. People are talking about it more, but there's more to talk about, which is why we're having this conversation.
Yes. There's so much more.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Well, how about telling us a little more about what you do with your clients? So now that you're focusing on that midlife phase for women, give us an insight.
So I really have I always say I have two different sides of my business. I do run a fitness workout group in my community. And so I do have the fitness component. But with the fitness component, I do a lot of nutrition coaching with my clients. I do health coaching with my clients. And then I have ones that obviously can't make it locally that I work with, virtually. what I really help women do is just kind of navigate this new season. So what kind of questions do you need to be asking at your doctors? What tests do you need to be requesting? What are some options you can have for, for treatment options? And then how can we address issues with your sleep? Let's look at some of the patterns you're noticing. How can we address issues with your stress? Let's look at your nutrition. What are you starting to notice? What are you struggling with? Are you doing fitness that maybe is not working with your body? Maybe it worked a couple of years ago, but how do we need to evolve that? So it really is looking at how can we address the whole person and kind of put those puzzle pieces together. The fun thing is every single woman's menopause journey is going to be very unique to them. It's going to depend on their lifestyle. It's going to depend on their hormone levels. It's going to depend on, heredity. There's so much that goes into it. That's also the challenging component too, is because there's no one size fits all. So there's no just one answer. So it is a lot of trial and error. Let's see what works for you. And really, looking and listening to what your body is telling you.
I think that's a really important thing to say, because you're right. No, it's not a one size fits all. And, one of the things I think in our culture is that we want a quick fix, and it doesn't matter woman, man, child. We all just want that quick Amazon, delivery.
Instant.
But working with a coach such as yourself, I think is so important, because you are learning to notice and notice, what exercise feels good, what doesn't. Like maybe you aren't able to do HIIT training anymore, or maybe yoga stretching is not for you, whatever it is. And same with the foods you're eating, because you're right, our digestion changes. It's just such an interesting time, and it can be so easy to get frustrated, very easy, frustrated. And many of us are overachieving, type A, we want to do it right, but you really do have to slow down and notice. So I love that you said that.
It's really looking for those patterns, because your body is giving you clues as to what's going on. The problem is so many of us as women, we either chalk it up to aging, or we're so busy taking care of everybody else, we're just assuming we're just going to power through it. So my role as a coach is just to kind of look at what is it that you're noticing that maybe you're not even realizing you should be noticing. Like I said, one of the things I struggled with is my eyesight changed, and I just assumed, okay, that was part of aging. Actually, your hormones do affect your eyesight. I tell women all the time, it's literally from head to toe. You can go through all the way down your body, and you're going to notice that you have all of these changes and things to look for. So having somebody that can provide you that education and those resources to let you know these are the things that you should be looking for, because if we don't know what questions to ask or what information to even search out, we're not going to do it. We don't even know where to start. So it's important to have somebody that does have a little bit of that expertise in there.
For sure. Yes, I love that. Well, that actually leads me right into this exciting thing that you've got going on now, which is a new book. And it's essentially a workbook, the way I understand. So, walk us through it. Tell us how this is a great tool for women, just as you said, taking it to the doctor, writing down things you notice.
So I basically decided to write this because what I was noticing with my clients and women that I was having conversations with was they were going to the doctors and they were being dismissed, or they were giving solutions that wasn't really working with their actual problems. They were giving kind of Band-Aid solutions. Maybe the doctor didn't have enough information. Maybe this isn't their wheelhouse. So my goal was to not write another book. There's so many great menopause books out there, and that is definitely not my strength as far as writing a book about menopause. Mine was to take all of those resources that you can get your hands on, all the books that are already out there, and let's actually put it into action now. Let's take that information and let's use it to the best of our ability. So what I created was it is a health journal. It's a way for you to track what is going on with your body. So there's over 20 trackers in the health journal. Some people call it a tracker. Some people call it a workbook. But and it goes through everything that you need. There's fitness trackers in here. There's nutrition. There's gut health. There's, your blood sugar trackers. There's places for you to list all of your supplements, blood tests that you've had, symptoms that you're struggling with, track your period, because we're still having a period, to a certain degree. And it really is just a way for women to go in and say, here is my information. I need help with all of this. So now I have the data. I need you to kind of sort through it and help me find a solution with all of the information I've collected. This should help women get the health care that they deserve. So when you're struggling with this, now that you have the resources, you have the data, and you go in and ask, you feel a little bit more confident with regard to advocating for yourself. So if I go in and I take all this information in and they say, you're too young, you're not there yet, let me just give you an antidepressant. This is where you can go in and really say, I need to know if this is your expertise, because my body's telling me otherwise through the information I've collected. Maybe I need to get a second opinion. Maybe you need to refer me out to somebody that is an expert in this field. So that's really what this is about, is just helping women find that confidence and that clarity so they can get real solutions.
That's wonderful. Yes, I love that. Even just going to the doctor for a checkup, not specifically for menopause, I found that if I don't write a few things down,
right.
I get in there and they're like, they ask you the standard questions, and then you're like, well, wait, I think I wanted to ask you something, and you've just forgotten. And I love that you've created this workbook, and I love the size of it. So those of you, we're listening to a podcast right now, but it's a nice notebook size. You have plenty of room to write, it looks like. And 20 trackers, that's a lot. So there's so many different things that can be going on with your body. Can we go through maybe just one or two of them, talk about like what you have in there and what someone using that workbook would do?
So that was one of the things when I was creating it, I was like, is this too big? But in all honesty, number one, we want bigger font because we can't see. And two, we want to be able to actually write in it. We want to be able to utilize it. And so having everything in one space is really helpful instead of just a whole bunch of different sheets of paper. So that was the reason that it's a little bit bigger and you feel like you have got plenty of space to take notes and also fill in the trackers. So, like I said, there's over 20 trackers in here. At the beginning of the book, I do ask you some questions so that you can kind of navigate. Do I need all 20 trackers? Probably not. That's just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so answering those questions is going to kind of lead you into, this is probably the tracker that you want to use if you're struggling with, X, Y, and Z. This is the tracker you're going to want to use if you're struggling with this component or this element. So that way you don't feel overwhelmed. And you might not use all of them. You might not, ever get to all of them. Or it might be something where you use 5 different trackers now and, 3 or 4 years from now, there might be different trackers that you need because your body is still evolving as you're going through the journey.
Yes.
So I do break it up into sections. So we have like tracking your menstrual cycle. That's important as far as understanding how often it's happening. We want to know, is it lighter? Is it heavier? Are you still having like severe cramps? Is your cramping, going away? Is it very short? Is it long? And kind of see what those patterns are. So you can see how close you're getting to, actually getting to menopause when you're done and then going into post-menopause. There is a list of symptoms in there that you can look for. And when I created this, I gave the top 40. There's really about 70, depending on who you talk to, between 70 and 90 perimenopause, menopause symptoms. So I gave the top most common 40.
Okay.
But this way you can track those. There's places for you to track different symptoms, the severity of those symptoms, when it's happening. Are you noticing, is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? Is it after you drink a glass of wine? Is it after you eat a certain meal? Whatever it is. So you can kind of look for those patterns. There's a sleep tracker There is a tracker that helps with monitoring your GI. So are you struggling with constipation, bloating, inflammation, fatigue, brain fog? Or is it, that you're going to the bathroom too much? So those are some of the things we want to look at and see. Your gut microbiome does change as your estrogen changes and decreases. And so you might notice these changes that you've never dealt with before. Trying to think, there's a stress tracker, there's a mindfulness tracker, there's a tracker to help you with your doctor's visits. So listing what doctor you went to, what did you go to the doctor for, were there any prescriptions given to you, was there any information or tests that you need to take, what were the results of those tests. So there's different trackers in there for doctor's appointments as well as your test results. You can also list your medications that you're taking, your supplements that you're taking, because that's one of the things they'll ask you is what supplements. Yes. You're like, well, I take, a vitamin.
Multivitamin.
Right.
Yeah.
And so being able to go in and say, here's the list of supplements I've been taking, that's always helpful too. So they know if it's going to affect your medication or if maybe something is affecting maybe one of the symptoms that you're having. So there's a ton of information in there. And again, not everything is going to be relevant to every single person. And so the nice thing is you can kind of pick and choose.
Yes. Well, I think that's really important. So thank you for saying that because, it could even sound overwhelming. 20 trackers, 40 symptoms, you start to hear that stuff. But what I want to encourage those who are listening and that you're like, maybe I am starting to have these symptoms. You may only have one or two, but it's so great to get educated now because, yes, when I went to my doctor at 40 and was like feeling like something was off, I was already in perimenopause. So I did start younger than some do, but they say it can even be between 35 and 55 or 60. But she was just like, yep, that's kind of what happens. And that's all I got.
Right. And then they kind of shoo you out the door and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Yes. So I did go into therapy. I did think I was going crazy, because I normally could process things better, but I wasn't able to, and I was getting angry, and I was never really an angry person, and those sort of things, and not even knowing it was related, to be honest.
And I'm so glad you bring that up because we do talk a lot about the physical, like my joints hurt, my brain fog,
hot flashes.
Hot flashes. There's so much that, physically we're experiencing, but then you'll talk to women and they're like, I'm very angry all the time, or I don't want to be around people. Even though I love being around my family, I really want alone time more often, or I'm very anxious. Something that's a normal behavior for me in the past now gives me anxiety, or I'm feeling blue. And we don't talk about the emotional element of perimenopause as well. There's so much that's going on there. We might have brain fog. We might have dry skin. We might have, we're not as glowy as we used to be. Well, that's going to hit our confidence. That's going to make us already have those struggles. And so it just really compounds on top of each other. And one of the things I talk about a lot is navigating this in the workplace, because not only are you dealing this with in your house, and it's a little bit easier to be able to tell your kids, you know what, I'm struggling, like you need to leave me alone, or talk to your partner that right now this doesn't feel good. But being able to bring it up at work and be like, I don't feel as organized as I did, or I'm afraid to have a hot flash in the middle of a presentation. These are conversations that we need to be having. And so if women know what to look for and they realize that they're experiencing these, they can start to educate other people around them.
That's great. Yes. In the workplace, that's tricky, at least from my perspective, because I've definitely been there where I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, my brow is sweating and I'm not nervous, but I'm in a presentation. It's not like I can take all the stuff off. So that's interesting. But I do think, to your point earlier, it's being talked about more. I mean, folks like Drew Barrymore, and I think I saw a master class, which I'm not a member of, but Halle Berry has a whole thing, so Oprah, so many women are saying hey, this is something that needs to be discussed. And it's it's absolutely normal. So I think normalizing it is fantastic. I think the work you're doing is so important. Would love to hear a success story. So someone you've worked with, and I realize it's a journey. So it's not like, oh, you're cured, because it's going to happen. We're going to go through this phase of life as women. But yeah, someone you've worked with that they've, whether, I know the trackers are pretty new, but what they've done to learn more about themselves, notice things, that sort of thing.
Well, definitely with the women I work with, we're looking at lifestyle habits as far as, what can we do to improve your sleep? How can we do that? What are the triggers that's, are you drinking wine before you're going to bed? That might be affecting your sleep. Or are you drinking, a beverage that's, an evening coffee or whatever. So I've helped women with regard to, let's find you better sleep. Also, let's look at the things that are causing inflammation. If you're noticing your skin, maybe you're having eczema, you're having breakouts, you're having changes in your skin, let's look at your food. Let's look at, how are you feeling after you've eaten? So I've had some women that have, been able to improve their digestion. It's also helped with brain fog. There was something else you said in the beginning of the question, and I thought about it, and now, of course, I can't because I have my own struggles with brain fog. But
in real time, here we go, folks.
Yeah, exactly. The workouts, women coming to me where they have done, CrossFit for years, and now all of a sudden their body just can't do that. And that's okay. It's hard to accept, but we've been able to, change up the workouts so they still feel like they're getting a great workout in, they're getting their strength in, they're getting that cardiovascular health. It's just not maybe as often as the high intensity that they were doing before, or it's just taken down just a little bit. So being able to work and, work with your evolving body, we want to evolve with it.
That's great. No, I love that. I think one of the things that I experienced, and maybe someone listening can relate, is more so the recovery. Like I could do a workout, but then it just took me longer. To, I was more sore or tired. You've touched on sleep a couple of times, what a journey that is when you're going through this phase of life, because you get woken up either by, I have crazy dreams, or you're woken up by night sweats, or, as you said, the wine unfortunately does affect sleep. So it's so important. So I think just exploring, like you said, noticing the patterns, again, we go back to that, but really important to look at that as you're going through this phase.
And it really is, having somebody just give you some ideas of, have you tried these things to eliminate, whatever it is that you're struggling with? Because sometimes we don't even know, what to even start with. And so the nice thing is having that information, because while it is, a list of trackers, each section has, an overview of what to look for and some ways that you can minimize those symptoms. How can you?
Wonderful.
Oh, I love that. Hello.
I turned off my ringer, but then that alarm went off. So.
Oh, that's okay. So how can you set yourself up for success? And just, it could be just one or two things. For some people, trying cooling sheets has helped. Changing up their pajamas has helped. Creating a bedtime routine. We almost kind of have to treat ourselves like we're toddlers again. The thing I think I love most about being this age is the ability to say, I am worth the time and the energy, and I have done so much and catered to others for so long in my life. This is my opportunity to really honor my body and cater to me now. And I think that is, number one, totally acceptable. And I think if you communicate with people in your life and let them know what you're experiencing, I do feel like people will understand it and they will support you. So,
yes, in this stage of life, we get better at saying no and setting boundaries, and it's empowering. It may be daunting if you've been sort of that person, like you said, you've supported your family, your spouse, your partner, whomever. The kids are getting older; they don't need you as much, but it's okay to say, I need this, or this is important to me. Yeah, it's a wonderful time of life once you sort of, again, navigate all the things happening and really just being open to, shifting, evolving. You used that word earlier. Yeah. I love that.
Well, and like you said, we're not going to get those instant answers. It's definitely, I mean, if Amazon could deliver something, I'm telling you, I would have it marketed for sure. And so I think one of the things we have to work with is mindset and being able to approach it. And this is my opportunity to learn a little bit more about me. And this is my opportunity to spend a little bit more time with myself and learn about my body and work with my body and do all of these great healthy things for my body. And I think going into it with that frame of mind is so important too, because we can all talk about this is terrible. You know, I'm experiencing all of these horrible things. But if we flip the script and we really talk about, well, this also gives me the opportunity to do these things for myself, then it does make a huge difference.
That's amazing. Totally. I love that. Now I just had a thought and I lost it. That was good. Oh, I do want to ask, I realize that you're not a medical professional, but certainly the thing that someone might be thinking right now is like, well, what about hormone replacement? Because we do hear about it. Transparently, I decided that was right for me after trying some other things. And so, just how do you help your clients, as they're going to the doctor or I went to a nurse practitioner, to get that advice and work through that?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is number one, let's figure out what you need. Like, what is your blood work saying? What is your body saying? What kind of things are you starting to notice? And let's have a list of those things that you're dealing with, so you can take that to the doctor and also have an understanding of what's out there so that you can ask them about these different types. Is it a pill? Is it a patch? Is it a pellet that I need to have? What are my options? The other thing is do a little bit of research on your own, because, in the past we've had a very negative fear-based centering around hormone replacement therapy. And we've come to learn that the information was not necessarily correct. And we're learning that it could be very helpful for a lot of women to find that solution. And so the other thing would be to make sure that you're asking your doctor, how do you feel about this? And if they are not comfortable with it, maybe this is not the right person for you, because some doctors either don't know enough or still maybe have that old school thinking. They haven't done enough research, whatever it is. And I think it's okay to ask, are you okay with, prescribing hormone replacement therapy? I was so fortunate to have a doctor that was amazing and that took everything serious. And she sat down with me and took time to go through my information and looked at all of the data that I collected and brought to her. And she did have me do hormone replacement therapy. And it worked well for me. I had great results, but again, it is an individual thing. But there's so many options out there now. You need to just find the one that you feel most comfortable with. But the biggest thing is just kind of knowing, what am I struggling with? What needs to be addressed? And what are my options for addressing that?
Well, and it comes down to what you've said too, as self-advocacy, like really being your own best your own coach, and coming in to those conversations. And research, for me specifically, I moved to a new place, so I had to find a new practitioner or doctor. And I was all honestly on Facebook and saw who people were recommending, who worked with hormone replacement. So again, to your point, it is very individual and personal. And I sort of believed some of the old school thinking. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So we tried other things, like you said, lifestyle changes, maybe some supplements and that sort of thing. And hormones have been the right choice for me too, but it's not for everyone. And there are, as you said, maybe it's the nighttime routines, it's exercise, eating choices. There's so many other things you can do, and you're empowered to do that.
Right. And that's definitely one of the best places to start, is just kind of look at that and then see, okay, now what have I been able to solve by making just a few changes? And then what do I still need guidance for? I love that you said that you got information off of Facebook, because I think one of the things that we also don't talk about enough is the component of community during this time. Being surrounded by a group of women that, can understand what it is you're going through and be your support system, have that extra accountability, have those conversations. And while our journeys might be completely different, being able to talk about it. And so I love seeing, because I see that on my Facebook too, where people will post, does anybody have a doctor that they feel comfortable with that knows about hormones or that knows about menopause? And I love that people are putting that out there out loud and for all to respond to, because this is exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be leaning on each other.
Yes, 100%. Well, is there anything that you wish we had talked about today that we haven't, or anything you wanted to touch on?
I think we've touched on a lot. There is so much information. And so I would say the first thing, if you're starting to notice that you're struggling or that you have been struggling and maybe you haven't made the decision to kind of address it, or you haven't had a doctor to help you, address it for, with you as a guide, is get educated. Start with that. Start doing a little bit of research so you know what to expect. We knew what to expect to a certain degree when we went through puberty, when we went through pregnancy, even a little bit of postpartum. We could do better. But after that, it's like, well, now what do I do? The crazy thing is we are in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause for, a good 30 years. If you think about it, if I started perimenopause at 46, and let's say I live to be 76, there's 30 years that I'm in this season of life, and I don't think we put enough emphasis on that. So start with getting educated, start with asking the questions, and if you're not sure what questions to ask, as you're doing your research, those will come up. But have conversations with your girlfriends, the ladies that you work with, the ladies that you work out with, the people, your family members, and ask them, what did they do? What did they experience? How did they control it or find some relief?
That's great. And I think your point that I hadn't thought of is, there's a whole period, like menopause is almost just like, that's the point in time. But then there's the whole post-menopause time period. And post-menopause, there's so much that goes into post-menopause that we haven't really started talking about yet. I'm assuming it's going to start to trickle into that conversation, which I can't wait for. But once your estrogen is gone, then you're really susceptible to those chronic diseases of heart disease or osteoporosis. You really have to be careful post-menopause because now you don't have that protection of that estrogen. And so it is even more important. So those conversations need to be had too, because we are there for a long period of time. 100%. Wow. No, this has been a fantastic conversation, and you're right. We shared a lot of information. But tell our listeners where they can find you, how we can find the book, all the things.
Excellent. So you can find me on Instagram. It's Midlife Health Coach. On Instagram, I'm also on Facebook. My website is midlifehealthcoach.com. And the book, super easy. It's Navigating Menopause, a comprehensive tracking workbook. Or health journal, if you want to call it that. But if you put in Navigating Menopause, it pops up and you can have that delivered, in 2 days. And it's amazing. Just get started on it's a nice overview of everything we've talked about. Obviously, if there's something particular to you, I would say do a little bit more research in that area. But it does have an overview in every section. And like I said, there's over 20 trackers in there to help you find a little bit of relief while you're going through this journey.
That's great. Well, we will share all of your stuff in the show notes too. But Navigating Menopause, perfect title because it's a journey. And I think it's going to be such a useful tool, like you said, for so many people, whether you're having one area you want to work on or look at, or 3 things. So thank you. Thanks for sharing this out in the world, because it's so important. And, one of my previous episodes to this one was about sisterhood. So I love that you brought up that community and just really leaning into supporting your sisters, the women you're with, as well as being supported. I think that's almost the final thing we could end up with. Is like, allow folks to help you.
Yes.
You are worth it. Your needs, your wants, the things that you're going through. And
you can't take it too serious. I mean, it's so nice to be able to laugh at this. I mean, it is a serious topic, yes, but sometimes just having somebody to joke around with and be like, okay, I can't do this right now because I'm having a hot flash, or I can't do jumping jacks because I have incontinence or whatever. And I understand that's not a laughing matter, but being able to just kind of be like, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I like to end with my guests and asking this final question, which is, what's something that you do, either a daily or weekly practice, that makes you feel wild and freed?
Wild and free. Well, my monthly practice is every month a group of girlfriends and I get together for brunch, and we go to different brunch areas in different brunch locations in our area. But that is the first thing. Every time I turn the calendar, that's the first thing that goes on my calendar is, where are we going to brunch and what day are we planning? Because it's so important to me to have that girlfriend time. And so I might not be too wild when I'm there, but I definitely feel free, and it's just something that just fills my soul every time I'm with them.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you, Karen.
Thanks
for joining me and for educating those who are listening. And we'll definitely share all your stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Wow. Again, I think we could have talked for a long time about these topics, peri and post-menopause. Karen was such a great guest, and I have some takeaways to share with you now. Number one, perimenopause is not something that has really been talked about before. We mainly know about menopause when our periods stop, and then we get a couple hot flashes and it's over. That is the story, or the way it's been viewed for a long, long time. Now, I think perimenopause is definitely being talked about more in the media, on podcasts, of course, but let's keep talking about it. I love this conversation. So just even starting off with that first takeaway, know that there's a lot to this, and let's talk about some more. So the second takeaway is, every woman's menopause journey is a unique one. It depends on so many things: lifestyle, hormone levels, heredity, to name a few. Number 3, it's really important to listen and tune in to your body. Number 4, Karen shared with us she has a workbook to help you during this phase of life, particularly when you seek medical assistance, intervention, or you're looking to find solutions. There are over 20 trackers in her workbook. Number 5, a few examples from the workbook. Navigating Menopause. There's a menstrual cycle tracker, a stress tracker, and a sleep tracker. So that's just a few examples of what you'll find in her workbook, which is on Amazon. So definitely go buy that today. Number 6, there are more than 40 symptoms of perimenopause and postmenopause. Some say up to 70 or even up to 90 symptoms. These are both physical, mental, and emotional symptoms. One of the most beautiful things Karen said during our conversation is my number 7 takeaway, which was the thing she loves most about this phase of life. And she said, I am worth the time and energy. And this is an opportunity to really honor my body and cater to me now. So take that as your mantra. You are worth the time and energy. If things feel off, if you feel like your medical provider's not listening, maybe it's your partner, they don't understand, go find someone who does, and know that your feelings, your symptoms, the things going on with you are truly important right now. Number 8. She said this in a different way, but I'm paraphrasing it. We can complain about all of these symptoms, or we can flip the script and talk about having the opportunity to do these things for ourselves. It's really focusing on our mindset. Number 9, it's important to know that you are your best advocate when navigating any phase of your life. Of course, we're talking about that perimenopause to menopause to post-menopause phase, but any phase, you are your best advocate. So do research and be prepared and ask questions when you're seeking solutions and care. Number 10, Karen brought this up. I totally and completely agree, and honestly have come to this realization in a much more clear way in this phase of my life. But community is everything. Surround yourself with women who support you and who you can relate to, whether it be locally or online. I shared that I had gotten some information through a Facebook post. You can find folks that will support you and that you can support in many different spaces. So be sure to find that community. Number 11, a woman can be in post-menopause for like 30 years. Again, I was a little shocked when she said this, but definitely something to educate ourselves on. What happens after menopause. Menopause is a point in time. It's when you no longer have a period after 1 year. But there's so much more to it, to your health and well-being after. And then number 12, yes, perimenopause and postmenopause are serious topics, but Karen reminded us just to remember to laugh about it too. Don't take it too seriously on some of the things that are going on. Again, it's good to take things a little more lightly when you can. So I love that kind of final thing she said. Again, she has a workbook. It's called Navigating Menopause. You can look it up on Amazon. A great tool and resource for you when you're going to seek care, to talk to professionals about what's going on with your body, your health, your well-being. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a review if you did. Please share this with a friend, your mom, your sister, best friend, cousin, whomever you think could benefit from this conversation. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you feel free to take action toward building the life of your dreams. If something in this episode resonated with you, I would so appreciate it if you would text it to a girlfriend so she can hear the message as well. Until next time, stay wild.